cold as ink they creep, fuzzy shadows from the dark they weep, creeping closer while you sleep, in the kitchen shadows seep. Whispers in the silent night, glowing eyes that give a fright. They're hiding just out of sight, lurking till the morning light. Fuzzy things in corners tight, they come alive in the pale moonlight. Tiny monsters, silent fight in the shadows.
Hello, everybody. This is Julie from Fuzzy Things in the Corner of the Kitchen, and today I am with Kevin.
Hey, how are you?
Okie dokie. Now, today we're going to be talking about, the holidays are coming up, and having to work in a kitchen, like a commercial kitchen, restaurant, catering kitchen, long hours. What's it like, Kevin? What was your experience in that?
Well, I mean, I'm still in it. So yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, all holidays. I mean, unless you're like in a corporate account, right? So if you're like one of the lucky chefs who are working in like a corporate account, yeah, you don't have to work the holidays, like corporate office, that type of stuff. But for all the rest of us, yeah, you're working. So I know that, Mother's Day, usually the busiest day of the year. And then, but the holidays, like from Thanksgiving on up until past New Year's, can't remember a time that we didn't work. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving Eve, New Year's Day, all workable days. Yeah, back in the day when I was young, it wasn't a big deal. And then you just get older and you're just like, dude, this sucks. So even in the industry that we're in now, holidays are required. But I think that's going, if you become a chef, you already know you're going to have to work holidays. I started as a dishwasher, worked every holiday, 30 something years. And to this day, we're still working the holidays. Still working the holidays. Unless, of course, again, you're in like a big corporate account. Yeah, it sucks, man. It can. But then you know what? You just kind of get used to it. And then the holidays fall off the calendar. About 15 years in, holidays just become another day. You lose your Christmas spirit. You lose all that because you're as the chef or whatever your title is, you have to work. A lot of your cooks and stuff request the day off, and you're more than happy to give it to them. But you are working, and you know that if you don't go into work, it's not going to get done. Yeah.
Now, what about if you have a lot of employees wanting to call off on the same holiday?
They always do. That's why you do mad prep. A lot of places have limited menus, and then 2 or 3 days before, you just prep them all out, prep out the day, tons of stuff, tons of it. So if you are one of 2 or 3 out of 9 that's supposed to work, you can handle it.
Oh, and then what happens is what happens when some people are supposed to come in, say they're going to come in, and they don't, and then you guys are stretched thin.
I mean, I guess it's all up to the chef. Nowadays, post-COVID, it's a whole different world. I usually just make it as easy. I always assume that I'm going to be working the holidays by myself. If people come in, good for me. If they don't come in, then it's kind of par for the course. If they say they're going to come in and they don't come in, and you ask them the day before, you're like, look, I'll give you the day off. You just got to say it. No, I'll be there. And then they don't show up. That's that. Just be like, goodbye.
It would be different if you're working a commercial kitchen versus a catering kitchen. Because if you have like hostesses and servers and they call off, it's like really hard to work the front of the house and the back of the house.
I know that if you're in a catering company and you have a Thanksgiving, pretty much everybody is going to be showing up because the amount of money they're going to make is off the chart. Well, front of the house, servers, busboys, stuff like that. The cooks are the one that are on the hourly wage or the salary. Is there's not a lot of incentive to get them back in the kitchen, except it's holiday pay. That's 1.5 times. But you have to look at, I guess that's the biggest thing. Cooks back of the house doesn't really want to come in. I mean, you really can't motivate them. Front of the house is motivated by tips, right? So you've got people, oh, you're working Thanksgiving, thanks for being here. They offload 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks, whatever it is. But for the cooks, it's just time and a half. So getting people back in, getting people to come in on holidays, and then you got tax on the overtime and all this other stuff, and they really don't make a lot. A lot. There are a lot of cooks out there that are just like, look, I got to earn as much money as I can. But for the most part, man, I'll just take a day off and I'll just work on Saturday or I'll work on Sunday. That
Well,
8 hours of,
let's touch on tips again. Obviously, we did another episode, one of our first episodes about tipping, but I don't really understand how things got it set up in this industry. The person or the people that actually create the food and are sweating over the hot ovens and everything don't they just get a flat rate. It's like, but the people just serving it, they get a tip. So I guess I know it's how it was set up from the beginning, but I don't know if it's fair.
I mean, I guess it just transgressed into tipping culture. We'll cover that in another podcast, but I just think it was supposed to be to ensure proper service. So you go in, and if they gave you great service, then you leave a tip. Nowadays, tips are just expected and they need it to live on because the wage hasn't changed from 1960 or 70 or whatever it was, like $2, $3, $4 an hour. But I mean, I get it. But the cooks and the back of the house, why are they going to come in on a holiday? They have no incentive. It's just another day to them. They come in, they cook, they fry, they steam, they broil, they char, they saute, they bake, they get burned. Except it's just really busy. Not a lot of places are open and it's extremely busy. What's all for you work 8 hours, you get an additional 4 hours times 20, that's $80. Is the extra $80 after taxes? It's like 60 something. Is that really worth missing a whole day from your family? 20 years ago, yeah, there's a lot of single cooks out there. They don't have a lot of family. Maybe they don't want to partake in the festivities with the families or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of valid reasons. And they just choose to go to work. But by far and away, they just don't come in. They have other priorities, which is a huge fundamental shift in the industry too. We're seeing a lot of why it's happening. It's not really important on this podcast, but they just choose not to come in. It's whether it's for mental health, whether it's for they don't need the money, whether it's for I live with mom and dad, and whether it's I just choose not to. They just don't come in. Even if they do need the money, they just choose not to come in. That's a huge shift too. That's where we're seeing a lot of that in the industry. A lot is that we had a few 20 to 30-year-olds, 30 something, 20 something, 30 something year olds that still live with mom and dad. And they're just like, I just don't want to work. It's a high stress day. And I just don't feel like I have the mental capacity to cook. I don't know what the fuck that's all about. I remember back, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to be grandpa chef, but you know what? Yeah, I will be. Like if you didn't show up, you were just done. And I know that things have changed and we've progressed and stuff like that. But just to accept that as an older chef, it's like, I don't understand, what's hopefully you guys got good inheritance coming or you got side money or something. I mean, if you do, good for you. If you do, then why are you here? But that's a whole nother story for another podcast too. The
Yeah,
grandpa.
if working in the kitchen, I don't know why somebody would apply for a job like that and not expect to work really hard. If you're going to go into that and want to work in a kitchen, you better know that you're going to work. You're going to sweat. You're going to be on your feet all day. That's the job.
We have a lot of people that come in and they just think, oh, it's a cook. If you go into somewhere that has Chef Mike or a microwave and everything's microwaved, boiled in the bag, the only thing you really have to do is cook meat. Sure, you're working, but you're not working as you're working inside of a scratch kitchen where you have to make the sauces and you can go get a packet of turkey gravy and add hot water. Bingo, you got some turkey gravy. That's a lot different than making turkey stock and then turning it into a sauce. So which is another podcast, because we'll talk about the economics of the restaurant industry and how that is food wise, right? So the cost of labor versus what you're doing versus the return from the customer is that's a whole different podcast. We can go in depth for forever on that. Anyways, as the scratch kitchen cooks and stuff like that, but all restaurants are just extremely busy no matter where you're at. And the point is that a lot of people just don't want to come in on a holiday. That's why a lot of restaurants are closed. A lot of food service establishments, hell, even stores are starting to close now again for the holidays. You'll have one or two, but yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, at a time of the year when a lot of people have extra time off, in this industry, it's the opposite.
Yeah. The fundamental shift of the restaurant. I mean, so we didn't change for decades. And then it seems like after COVID, everything changed. You can say it's bad, you can say it's good. I think that's more of a personal opinion. But as a whole, I can tell you that labor is hard to come by. Good labor. You can get anybody to go in, but are they going to be productive? Can they cut? Can they chop without paramedics and firefighters? I'm going to go ahead and say no. Qualified culinary people are in demand. They make a ton of money. If you know what you're doing, you can pretty much just name your price. And I don't think that there are a lot of good cooks. However, I'm going to tell you, they think they're good and they're actually shit. I had a cook come in from this one really busy place, and it's well known out here, et cetera, et cetera. Man, I don't know. I guess I should say I look for, this business that I'm in needs high caliber, right? So they've got to know what they're doing. They've got to know, you've got to know your mother sauces and your derivatives, because we use them, because that's what our customers pay us for. You have to know all of your cuts. You have to be able to perform all of those cuts. Julienne, Bâtonnet, fine Julienne, Brunoise, fine Brunoise, etc. We use all of those. And cooks come in and they just, oh yeah, like I can do that. And we got to go through a 1 day of cooking. But as soon as they come in, man, like, I don't know what happens. It's like they walk out the door and boom, they come in like another person. You ask them to make a stock. Okay, well, thank you, but don't drop a piece of raw chicken in my stock. That's not how it works.
In the interview process, it's really hard to tell just by talking to somebody. You
Yeah,
probably hire most people and then see how they are in the kitchen before you really
yeah,
full time.
yeah. Every cook out there does it. Every chef has done it. Fake it till you make it. But if you're gonna fake it till you make it, you've got to go back and really, when you're not at work, like you're watching everything. You're trying to learn everything. You don't. There's no time for chit chat. There's no time for making friends. You're watching and learning because you don't want to get called out on some bullshit. And then you go home and you got to read. Nowadays, you just go to Google, it'll show you how to do it. And then you got to quickly adapt to it. So if you're ever pulled on task, then you can be like, yeah, sure, no problem. I got that. And thank God for cell phones. And that's another thing is that a lot of these cooks, like if you don't know how to do it, you have fucking Google, dude. You have Google that shit up, watch a video, and then put it in, and then put it into practice. I mean, that you can't do that on a lot of it is time honored. A lot of it you can't do it your first go around. Like soups and like the base soup, right? You can't do the base stock. You can't do and then all the derivatives and stuff like that. You can't do that. But a lot cutting, chopping, prepping, slicing, braising, grilling, sauteing, all that shit. Just Google it. It'll show you how to do it. But they don't seem to do that. And but they're requesting the same hourly wage or salary as somebody who does. So well, he makes 31 an hour. Yeah, well, he can outrun you in circles, and then if I don't make what he makes, and you're just like, whatever, dude, go away. Just just go away. You just burned flour. We don't know how you did it. We don't know. That's not even a thing, but you just did it. So there you go. That's
What
yeah,
is
that's
what is the craziest thing, the craziest mistake that someone in your kitchen made?
I mean, that kind of depends on so a newbie mistake didn't have knowledge would be we had this we were doing impapio, which is you have to wrap something in paper and put it in an oven. And you have to coat coat the paper in olive oil, or else it'll just flake apart and ruin your dish. And so he does this and he sticks it in a salamander, which is direct flame. So he's sitting here watching it to make sure it doesn't burn. The olive oil ignites, comes flying out the salamander and burns his eyebrows and his the front of his hair. Just burns it,
Oh my
singes it.
god.
Yeah, second degree burns. Not terrible. He that was his last time with us, and we didn't even catch it. We just think it's common sense, right? Throw it in the oven. That's the instructions. Throw it in the oven. But he wanted to hurry up and get it done and put it into a salamander, which of course you know what salamander is. So the salamander is direct heat on top. That's Mexican restaurants use it to brown cheese. French restaurants use it to brown cheese, all that other fun stuff, browning cheese thing. We've had cooks that our hands are cold and they continue to work. And it's just like, if your hands start getting really cold, like you have to stop your knife work. You can't do it. You cannot do it. You're going to really cut yourself. So she thought she was a hero. And we told her, like, hey, if when your hands get cold, you have to stop butchery because butchery is done in a 38-degree room. And we're like, you have to stop. Didn't stop, almost cut her thumb off. Yeah, it was, there's a whole bunch of stories like that, right? Every chef has like good war stories, which again, that's why you become a chef, right? So you get all this experience and you're a young chef. There's always a chef in the corner that's like 50, 60 years old, doesn't put up with any bullshit. Yeah, right. Whatever. Back in the day, I've always wanted to be that chef. And now I am that chef. So I'm in a good position. They can call me old and cranky chef all day long. They can call me grandpa, whatever. But as they're out there making rookie mistakes, I can just sit there and go, you know, I mean, it's just a great thing, right? So that's where I'm at in the career. I love it. I love it. I always wanted to be the old wise chef. And if you fuck something up, just that chef would come over and he'd just be like, move. And then he would just fix it. You absolutely think it's completely broken. And then, or it's like the simplest thing, right? So there's this, we were making omelets. And I already knew this kid, man, he's sitting here struggling to make omelets. And I'm like, okay. I go over there. I'm just sitting here letting him do his fucking thing. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's doing some Fanny Craddock shit or something. I don't know, trying to be Gordon Ramsay. I don't know. And I turn the oven on, low fan. Excuse me. I turn the oven on, low fan. I turn it 225 degrees. I get the pans hot. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, this is like the fifth omelet. I'm like, you can't have any brown. No browns go on these omelets. You know, that there's no brown. If it's brown, it's burnt. You're done. Throw it away. And he goes, no, it's only a little brown. And I'm like, all right, yeah, no brown. And he's like, well, how do you do it? Why don't you show me how to get no brown? Oh, so glad you asked. So I put the pan on a low flame, a little bit of butter, you know, make the world go around. I throw in the onion, the garlic, or I'm sorry, the shallot, the garlic, and the bell. I just give it a couple swirls. I take the pan off the heat, count to 10, add in the eggs, right? Because we beat the eggs with cream and spices and shit. And I throw it in the oven. He's like, that's not how you make an omelet. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And about 8 minutes, you know, no. About 7 minutes later, 6, 7 minutes later, I pull it out. Perfect French omelet. Perfect. And I'm like, here you go. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me that? And I'm like, well, why didn't you ask? He's like, should I ask? And I'm like, don't you think you would ask? Or do you just know everything? So right then I realized that I became that old chef in the corner. You know, I've been through the drugs, I've been through the alcohol, I've been through the gambling, I've been through all that shit. I've been clean, sober, many years, decades. But I went through all that shit. So, you know, I truly have become the old wise chef in the corner that fixes stuff. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that. But yeah, drugs are
Wow.
huge, by the way.
I've been seeing a lot of stories about chefs and how they got started. And some of them start off in life at rock bottom. They don't know what they're going to do with their life. And they find themselves in a kitchen that they've never been in before, never done anything like that. And the industry saves their life. But for some people, the opposite is true.
Well, Anthony Bourdain said it best, right? Anthony Bourdain said that the kitchen is a group for the misfits. If you don't fit in the regular world, come to the kitchen. We'll accept you as for who you are. And that's still very true. A lot of people are, you know, shunned, or, you know, back in the days because they had tattoos. That's not so much nowadays. Nowadays, if you don't have a tattoo, you're not a good chef. But drugs are still pretty prevalent. They always have been, right? I used to have a chef that would do 2 lines right off the stove every day, right before service, right?
Wow.
It's just, yeah, we're just like, oh, yeah, that's what it takes to function. Some choose that, some choose alcohol, some, you know, some choose whatever they're going to choose, but it helps them get through the day. But with the stress, I think that chefs love the dopamine, love the adrenaline. They're adrenaline junkies. And nothing is better than the adrenaline rush, or even the hit of adrenaline, than going through super busy rush, high pressure environment, super high pressure. Everything has to be meticulous. Everything has to be perfect. It's 50 dishes that have to be absolutely perfect. Nothing can be out of place. Tweezers, sauce spoons, the whole works, the whole kit and caboodle. There's nothing really like that hit of adrenaline. when they don't get it, then it becomes addicting. So that whole adrenaline thing becomes addicting. And then you start looking for it outside of work and you can't find it. Or so you resort to drugs, you resort to alcohol, you resort to something that will just give you some similar high. And it just gets worse and worse, right? Because your body builds up immune and all that other scientific stuff. But also, a lot of chefs use it to cope. Maybe their life is in the shitter. A lot of that. A lot of that. A lot of lives are in the shitter. They've lost a lot of people. They going through this huge divorce. They're going through some shit, man. I'm gonna tell you, I've known chefs who I never thought would be standing after some shit they went through. It just seems like we attract all the bad shit in life, man. But I've known chefs who really went through some shit, and drugs and alcohol helped them cope. So I'm not going to sit here and say stop it or whatever, but that is a huge coping mechanism, as you know, in our industry is huge. And a lot of people, yeah, they come in and they're already fucked up. In the kitchen, we're all fucked up. There's not one of us that's fucking sane. We can pretend real well outside, but once we get in the kitchen, but a lot of chefs come in and they're already fucked up. And it's just a place where they can feel at home. They feel like they're accepted for who they are, all their problems, all the baggage and shit they got going on, and they can talk about it freely. And it's with people who understand.
Yeah, for
So
some people, that's their only family.
yeah, and I think that I miss that is the kitchens nowadays. There are some. This is not a blanket statement. There are some, but the kitchens used to be families. Now it's just corporations and all this other shit. But I remember I used to go pick up my cooks. One of them's on the corner of Battery and Broadway, drunk as a skunk. And if I didn't go get him, San Francisco police was going to go pick him up and put him in the tank. Going to go put him in the tank for a couple days. Run down there, go pick him up, try to put him in the car. Can't walk, can't spell. Go drop him off at his house and go chuck him on his couch or whatever, and give him a couple slaps and be like, "You're still coming into work tomorrow, right? I'm still going to see you at 11 a.m. like in 6 hours." I'm like, just because I had to go get you does not mean this is an excuse not to come into work. And sure enough, they'd come into work. So I think it's that kind of camaraderie that is missing from some of the kitchens now. And the kitchens that I run, it's just not there. It's just, and I understand the detriment to what that does to people, but being the misfits, and I think you said it right. A lot of us don't have families. A lot of us don't have the typical ties to society for whatever reasons. There's millions of them. So the kitchen becomes like the family, and they start depending on each other. And so I don't think that's in a lot of the kitchens nowadays. I really don't. But not in the kitchens that I've been in the past 15 years at all. I remember when I first started, the owner would come in and the chef would still have some Coke on the line. We had to go, and the owner's walking down and the chef's talking to him. The chef didn't know. It's like we had to go over there and just go get a towel and wipe off really quick, run over there and just casually walk by and wipe the stove off so the chef doesn't get bust, like shit like that, right? But then again, he would return the favor. If you really fucked up and he knew that you would get fired, he would do some crazy shit. I had a chef and I really fucked up a lot of imported lambs. And somehow, the the shelf in the cooler, it just snapped one day and it all fell on the floor. And he's like, yeah, I can't use any of that. None of it. Now, of course, I got my ass chewed, damn near beat, right? And he's like, don't you ever fucking do that to me again. I'm going to do this one time. But you knew it came from a good place, because if he didn't like you, he just would have fired your ass. So, yeah, I don't think a lot there in the past 15 years in kitchens, I've never experienced that kind of sense of being, I guess, right? And it's sad. I miss that. I miss it a lot. I miss working the 17-hour days. And a lot of people, I don't want to hear the bullshit about I'm not working 17 hours a day and fuck that and I need whatever. It's not about that. It's about your friendships with your people in your kitchen. You know that all of your flaws and all of your failures and everything, they don't judge you for that shit. You could be black, blue, white, gay, straight, whoever in the fuck you were. They're like, we don't care who you are. Just fucking cook. Shut your mouth and cook. Let's get busy, right? And you work 17 hours because you don't want to go home to your bullshit. You don't want to go home and go sit in an empty apartment or go home to whatever else they were going home to. And it's not about, like there's a lot of times where we didn't even clock in back in the day. And we didn't care because we didn't want to be home for whatever reason. A lot of us did that. We just didn't want to go home at all. We would rather be with people who understood us, who you could talk to, who you learned from, and who you helped them to learn. And you had that old cranky chef, and he was just an asshole. But you knew that he had your back on whatever happened. Like I remember I got in a lot of trouble and I didn't know who to call. So I'm just like, hey, I'm in trouble. And, that chef right there just says, where are you at? And I said, he goes, I don't fucking care. Where are you at? And how much is this going to cost? I'll be down there as soon as I can. Like, where are you at? So I told him where I was at. And he goes, shut your mouth. Don't say a fucking word. I'm on my way. And he came down and he just got me. And again, so he did the same thing that I did for a line cook, right? And that's right. Now, when I got in trouble was earlier, so I did what my chef did. I did to my cook what my chef did for me. And he didn't want to hear shit. He didn't want an explanation. He didn't want to thank you. He didn't want nothing. It was a quiet ride back to my apartment. He didn't say nothing, man. And this man just looked at me and said, see you at he said, I'll see you at 0600, 6 a.m. And all I said was, yes, chef. And that was it. That was it. And he never asked me what happened or nothing. And about a week later, he comes up and he goes, if you're ever in trouble, you do exactly what you did before. He goes, whatever happened is between me and you. I bailed out every single person in this kitchen. Welcome to the fucking club. He goes, all I ask is that you do it when you get into my position. And I did. And that was that.
Right. I think we should also mention that if anybody's suffering from any type of substance abuse or having any gambling issues or whatever, that they need to seek help.
Yeah. So when you're ready. And yes, you should absolutely seek help. We'll put everything we'll put the links below.
Yes.
But here's what I can tell all the chefs and cooks out there. When you're ready. When you've hit that absolute rock bottom. That every ounce of passion that you have has been sucked out of you and you're tired and you feel lonely. And picking up a knife or the sound of a hood or the sound of a sear no longer holds what it held just months ago. And those sounds and those feelings do not ignite that fire, that love, that passion, you're at rock bottom. And when you hit rock bottom, you feel like nobody can help you. You feel like that you're too embarrassed because you're the chef or you're the executive chef or you're whoever. And those addictions really isolate you. And you feel like you would be letting everybody down if you went and you asked for help. And that's not true. A lot of us chefs have been through it. A lot of us, it took years to recover. It took years to get sober. It's still, for a lot of chefs, it's still hard to stay sober, but they do it. And so can you. You just got to take the first step. And the first step, I can honestly assure you, is the hardest step. But you have to take it.
Maybe, obviously around the holidays, there's extra alcohol and extra partying. But if you're, working in the kitchen, you probably aren't going to have time to go to those parties. So it might actually help you avoid the situation.
I mean, chefs are artistic people. Bakers are scientific. They're a whole different breed. They've got their shit all nice and locked down. Chefs are more artistic. Artistic people usually have higher rates of addiction, and the addiction is compulsive addiction. And with a compulsive addiction comes, you just get addicted. Like I was addicted to a whole bunch of stuff. Now I'm addicted to coffee. I drink coffee all day long. Is it better? Sure, but it's still an addiction, right? So we're always going to be addicted to something. You just got to find something that's not going to kill you. And I also can tell you that there's a lot of chefs out there who are beyond that. And they really feel like that they just let everybody down. And they're thinking some thoughts that really aren't that good. And I can tell you that I was there. And that's, you're just not in a good space right now. You got to find somebody. You have to reach out, man. Don't do some crazy shit. Get out there. I know you're battling demons. All chefs have demons. That's why we're in the field we're in. And sometimes those demons feel like they just got so deep in you that you have no way out. And I'm talking to all the chefs out there because they know this is on the real. Those demons are not, they got you in a wrong space. You've got to get help. You've got to say something, because you're going to make a permanent decision on a temporary problem. And we've lost too many good chefs through that kind of stuff right there. And I can tell you that don't be selfish. You're being selfish. If you're thinking like that, you're being selfish. You're going to hurt a lot of people. Just because your coworkers, your cooks, your chefs, your pantry cooks, and everybody, just because they don't come up and tell you how much they love you every day and they don't pat you on the back, that's not our culture. But I can tell you that they respect the shit out of you. I can tell you that you will be missed. And I can tell you that you absolutely 100% make an impact on at least one of them people's lives. And one should be enough. One should be enough. And if you think any other kind of way, you're just in a wrong space, man. You have to reach out. Don't make a permanent solution for a temporary problem. Go down below and find somebody to talk to, because that is a real problem in our industry. Addiction that just snowballs and it snowballs until something happens and it's like in a final, they want to do the final step. And we lose a lot of good chefs every year because of that. They just can't take it. So yeah, please reach out.
When you talk about the family type atmosphere in a kitchen, what I keep picturing is scenes from the series The Bear. And I know that you've seen that, and we should talk about that in another podcast. But
I think,
that really hit home for you, that show.
yeah, some of it. So with the show The Bear, that is romanticized. A lot of it, like during that service, that's real. There are times throughout the program where you just see raw emotion coming out. That's very true. I don't think it does it on, well, going back, when, spoiler alert, when he goes and confronts the chef that says, "Why did you hate me?" and shit like that. And he goes, "I didn't. You were average when you came, and you were excellent when you left." That right there is if I can define our relationships in one sentence or two sentences, that's it. You were okay when you came, and you were excellent when you left. And he just took a step back because you want to be better. We're here to make you better. You want to succeed. We give you the tools. We press you. Because this is what you wanted. You don't want to be an average cook. We have cooks. You wanted to be a superstar chef. We will push you right. We will push you into PTSD. And that's what happened because he wanted to be the best. He wanted to be, and now he is. And you don't get up there. You don't get to be stars. You can't have a star if you doing 40 hours a week. You can't get a star if you're just not fucking perfect. Absolute fucking 100% perfect. Perfection. Every single time. There's absolute zero room for error. And that requires intense thought, intense preparation, skill, everything rolled into one dish. Everything you've learned, everything you've studied, everything you've been through, all of your emotion, everything into one plate. And you've got to do it 500 times. And though what that chef said to him was absolutely the starred world. And now, of course, if you're going to the diner, you're not going to do that. But in the Michelin stars world, that those two sentences said it all. That's it. And how that kitchen runs is how those kitchens run. There is no free thought. This is what you will do. You will do it to perfection every single time. You don't chit chat. There's no speaking unless you're spoken to. Like the hierarchy of those kitchens is classic Escoffier, is classic shut the fuck up, is classic you don't say anything unless I ask you, and then you only give me what I want to hear, and that's it. That is Michelin star. That is truly Michelin stars right there. That's Michelin starred breed, right? So that's how you get there. That's how you learn. That's how people who don't want to work 30 hours a week, you can't go into Michelin like they're a Michelin star restaurant. They're going to tell you to go fuck yourself. You don't have the commitment, fire. You work because it's a passion. It's something you want, and a lot of people are like, yeah, I would never work. Well, yeah, you're never going to get a Michelin star. So go fuck yourself. Nobody cares what you think, right? That's why chefs are who they are. That's why chefs, a lot of the chefs are arrogant. A lot of the chefs are exactly what you think of when you think of a Michelin starred chef, right? It's because they've earned that right. They have the stripes on their jacket, and you can learn a lot. But yeah, that show, of course, it's a lot of romanticized, like the endings, everything comes together. Everybody knows that Like a lot of chefs will tell you, yeah, I tried, I failed, I'm one of them, right? So you try to get it done, something happens, and then you lose it, right? Chefs, and exactly, and I also thought of me too, because the investor was like, what the fuck? The food costs are out the window. And the chef's like, yeah, but I need this and I need that and I need this. And very few chefs are great chefs and great businessmen without a huge team behind them. But yeah, I totally related to that. That was funny. Good show, though.
As you're talking about families and stuff, those images come to my mind because I haven't worked in a kitchen. I definitely wouldn't work well. I'm kind of like a sloppy home cook, so that's just me.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, look, there's no ding there. I mean, there's a lot of good cooks who cook fucking fantastic food at home. We're talking about a commercial environment where you are preparing food for hundreds of people in a huge kitchen, and it's a whole different story, right? Commercial and private, because you cook for your family. I've seen thousands of great cooks at home. I mean, that their food fucking slaps. I have also seen a lot of people who think that who are great home cooks think they can go in and go be a great chef, and that doesn't work out so well.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing for sure.
But yeah, so that's kind of an insight into the addiction. Well, I guess we went from addiction. I mean, it doesn't matter where we went on this podcast, but addiction is real. And I hope I gave you a little bit of insight into how the kitchens work on the dark side, right? So a lot of cooks come to our kitchens broken. A lot of people, I'll just say, come to our kitchens and they're broken, mentally, spiritually, physically. Whether they're in two pieces or 1,000, it doesn't matter. And we surround them and we build them back up. That's just how kitchens work. And it's good to see. So being the old wise chef, I get to spearhead that now, right? Fixing broken people. And I'm glad to be where I am today.
And you know what to watch out for. You see the signs.
Right.
Well,
So
I think this is a good place to end it. And we always have lots to talk about, and we have lots more to cover on future podcasts.
okay. All right. Until next time.
Until next time.
All right. Bye.
Was he famous